Hey everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're doing JMA Friday today, so having a look at weather for the coming month, potential weather for the coming month. This takes us to the end of February, so we're going into the end of the winter of 2015-2016 with this update. It hasn't been much of a winter for cold and snow lovers, to say the least. It's been an exceptionally mild Atlantic-driven winter so far. We'll see whether this continues into the final month of the winter of 2015-2016 in a second. But before I get on with that, just say about the ads. There's 6 articles on all pages at Gaston. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. The long-range models we're using for this are the CFS V2, and starting off with the Japanese model, the JMA. So I've got 500 millibar heights here broken down into weekly periods from the JMA model. Blue extrapolates to low pressure, and yellow, orange, red colours extrapolates to high pressure. That's the same on the CFS V2 as well. So the first weekly period will be taking us from the 29th of January through to the 5th of February, so today through to next Friday. And we find we've got ridging down to the south of the country with the JMA, and also stretching out in towards the Atlantic. And then we've got quite a deep trough of low pressure up to the north, and it means the jet stream is running right through the country rather like that. So it's an Atlantic driven week coming up, and really quite unsettling deep. That's a deep trough sitting up to the north of the country. There'll be bands of rain, or there will be bands of rain coming through. And because of the position of the trough, we could be putting down some quite cool air actually from the northwest at times. So we could get some colder incursions, especially into the north of the country, from Greenland and the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean during the course of the coming week. We go through to week 2, and this takes us from the 5th through to the 12th of February. And this one looks very unsettled as well. Again, deep trough of low pressure sitting out to west of the country, ridging, pulling out into the middle part of the Atlantic and going over towards the east of Europe. So we're under a trough of low pressure, essentially. There'll be further bands of rain coming in from the Atlantic Ocean. And again, same idea as the first week, that we could bring in some colder incursions from the northwest, particularly, but not exclusively, affecting Scotland. And then we go through to week 3 and week 4, and again it's unsettled, trough of low pressure sitting around the country, ridging through the central part of the Atlantic and over towards the east and the southeast of Europe. Jet stream going a bit like that, so it's almost coming through the country there. I think there's less of a risk of colder incursions with this week 3 and week 4 period, but it's still unsettled, it's still Atlantic driven. And the main thing to take from this is that there's no sign of any really sustained cold weather. To get really sustained cold weather, we need to take this trough, this blue area, we need to take that down to the south and the east of the country. We need to set up blocking over the top of the pole. And there's no sign of that at all really on the JMA here. So it looks like we could get some cooler incursions, particularly affecting the north, may get the jet stream onto a northwest-southeast alignment, which could bring colder incursions into the north particularly, but no sign of sustained severe cold weather for the final month of winter 2015-2016 for February on the JMA. Let's have a look at the CFS V2, and again these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. Same idea. So the coming week, the 29th of January through to the 4th of February, looks like this. We've got low pressure up to the north, we've got high pressure down to the south, so a very unsettled week coming up with the flow coming through the country a bit like that. And again, because of the position of that trough, we could bring some colder incursions down from the northwest at times, particularly, but not exclusively, affecting Scotland there through the course of the coming week. Week 2, which is the 5th through to the 11th of February, looks like this. Again, good agreement between the CFS and the JMA here. Deep trough of low pressure out to the west, and then we've got ridging sitting down to the southwest and also over to the east of the southeast of Europe. The jet stream looks like that. So maybe going on to the cooler side of the jet at times, maybe bringing cooler air down from the northwest within this trough, but the essential idea is that it's very Atlantic driven here. It's unsettled, particularly in the north and the west, and there could be, it's not a heat wave, there could be some colder incursions at times, but not aligning things quite right for sustained cold weather. Notice we have got quite a bit of blocking over the top of the North Pole. We don't have that on the JMA, but even with that, things are still not really setting up quite right to deliver us proper cold conditions. We move through into week 3, which is the 12th through to the 18th of February. Again, we've got this trough around the country. It's weakening, but it's still there, so still unsettled conditions into week 3, with a part of February, ridging out to the west and down to the southeast. Have got some ridging to the north of Scandinavia as well, around Svalbard. We've got to watch out for that. It's possible if this is stronger that it could turn the flow into the east. But overall, I think it's still generally Atlantic driven here, with the trough of low pressure bringing in bands of rain from off the Atlantic Ocean and possibly colder incursions as well. Whoops, not sure what happened there. Right, we go through to week 4. Finally, this is from the 19th through to 25th of February. And quite a big change taking place. The ridge sets up over and to the south of the country. So this could really be a taste of spring, actually, with the flow going like that, going to the north of the country. We could start to drag up some very mild air from the south, particularly from the Azores and possibly from Spain and Portugal as well. So the end of February on the CFS-V2 this morning does imply that we might get quite a big push up in temperatures and have a little taste, early taste anyway, of spring. Have a look at the temperature anomalies for the coming months. So week 1, which is 29th of January to the 4th of February, generally milder than average, or a bit cooler for Scotland. Week 2, a bit of a north-south split here. From the 5th through to the 11th of February, milder than average in the south, but colder than average in the north. So as I said, we have got the chance of some colder incursions coming in from the north at times during the early part of February, particularly affecting Scotland, possibly pushing down into the south at times as well, but particularly some colder incursions affecting Scotland. Week 3, the 12th through to the 18th of February, goes milder than average across the whole of the country. And then week 4, this one we could get a little taste of spring, so you'll not be surprised to know that the temperatures really do push up there from the 19th to the 25th of February. So a little bit cooler through the first half of the month at times for Scotland, but less so for England and Wales, but no sign of sustained cold weather. Precipitation anomalies for the CFS-V2 looking like this. So the first week, wetter than average. The coming week looks like being quite wet indeed. Week 2, the 5th through to the 11th of February, again wetter than average for that week. Week 3 is still unsettled, but less so. And the wettest conditions actually going towards the south of the country, interestingly. But generally, the rain is easing off there through the middle part of February. And then week 4, which is when we get that ridge building across the west of Europe, you'll think that will turn dry on average. Actually, the precipitation anomaly is just average. But if it comes off as the model is expecting, I would think we could have a drier than average week there. And I say a little taste of spring. Just having a look at the 500 millibar height anomalies for the coming couple of months. So this is how February is looking. This is from the website weatherweb.net. Again, this is from the CFS V2 model. You can find a link to WeatherWeb on the links page, by the way. So February looks like this. Low pressure generally as an anomaly to the north of the country, with ridging down to the south. So it's an Atlantic driven month really for the final month of the winter. Remains Atlantic driven, no sign of anything particularly cold on that one. And then March looks like this, and it still looks pretty Atlantic driven, to be honest. So the ridge again down to the south, and then we've got this deep trough of low pressure to the north, and the flow going like that. Could be going on to the colder side of the jet stream there at times in March, but that does look a very unsettled month, and could be pretty stormy start to the spring if that one comes off. So, well, there's no sign of anything sustained in terms of cold weather coming up. Now, we know we've got this stratospheric warming being progged for around the 5th and 6th of February next week. But there's no sign of the models doing anything with that. It could be that they just haven't really incorporated that yet, or it could be that it's not going to be as impactful as it might have been expected. As I've already said, with these stratospheric warnings, you have to propagate them down from the stratosphere into the troposphere. If they don't go down into the troposphere, then they won't set up the blocking, and sometimes they don't do that. Well, there's no sign of anything sustained in terms of cold weather. We could bring some cooler air into the north on the sort of scenarios that the JMA and the CFS are coming up with. So wintry potential for the north at times, but nothing really in terms of sustained severe cold for the final month of the winter. It just remains Atlantic driven and very unsettled, and that possibly even going on into March as well. So that's how it looks this week. We'll do the month ahead look ahead again next Friday, of course, as always. Tomorrow it's a weekend forecast, and in the evening tomorrow we'll also have the latest El Nino update. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching.